to another episode of the Blue Honor Vlog. I'm Kay Williams, author of Op Deck Operation Deceit, Blue Honor, and the Trilogia Trilogy. This past late spring, early summer, I found out that Op Deck was selected for the American Screenwriting Conference in Sacramento, California. It is an official selection for 2020. So I was pretty stoked about that, and I just wanted to mention it here because I haven't been able to mention it yet on the vlog. So I thought that was really cool. I did write the screenplay when I was doing my master's work in screenwriting and film. So I would really love to bring that project full circle and finalize it. You know, getting it on tape, getting it filmed, the whole 9 yards. That would be absolutely excellent. I mean, that is the purpose of having got my master's anyway in that. So today I actually wanted to talk about how my daughter has reminded me of those things that inspired my desire to write and study film. So in January, I think it was the end of January, my notes say January 31st here of this year, 2020, I wrote an article called Where Does It All Come From? And I spoke about Jim Henson being a great inspiration to me as far as my writing and childhood. Of course, I grew up on Sesame Street. I was blessed with that on public television. And all the great 80s films, Labyrinth, Dark Crystal, you know, The Muppets, everything like that. So, you know, of course, he had a lot to do with Star Wars too, which was great. I know a lot of people hate certain aspects, but, you know, Yoda he's there, and he's not going anywhere, which is kind of cool. I like Yoda. Who doesn't love Baby Yoda? Come on, people. Anyway, so raising my daughter, you know, she's 3 years old now, and it's been a wild 3 years. Just so much nostalgia and just flashbacks constantly. I find myself thinking about my gram all the time in her house and playing in the yard and the pond and catching frogs. And the first time I saw a great heron, and I called them pterodactyls from there on. And orioles. I found an oriole nest when I was little. It was covered in fleas, which was kind of gross, and, you know, I'm slapping the fleas off of me. So that was terrible. Robin's eggs, bunny rabbits, you know, everything. It was so magical. And when you're going through this, you just think this is normal. You know, this is what we have. But after college, they had moved and downsized because they were well retired, etc. And just to make it easier on them, they downsized, and my uncle took over that house, started renting it out. So going there, I couldn't go there anymore. And even though I was in college, it would be nice to just go down and sit by the pond and just take in the peace and quiet. And things just kind of have deteriorated from there. I mean, after my aunt passed away, the land got sold, her parcel, and that's been under development. And then my uncle got the swath that's up behind the house, and he developed that and put in several houses that he rents out. So things have changed immensely, and I find myself missing that, and really kind of wishing that I had the ability to give that to my daughter. Excuse me. And it's not possible. You can't go back. The woods and the horse trail are all cut down. The horses were gone well before me, but the horse trail was still there, so you could go jogging and hiking and stuff and get your exercise. And I would take my dog out when I was little and go running through. And I can't do that now because that land has been sold off, and that belongs to other people. So that is just, it's gone. And it's crazy. I'm just glad that I took some photographs of it, you know, that I have that, but I can't actually share that with her. So she's not going to know any differently. You know, she does have my parents to visit and stuff, which is kind of like a camp where they are. It's very wooded and very garden-like and idyllic, of course, you know, because it was all part of that, and that has still retained it. And of course, the old house where my grandmother used to live is still the same. My uncle hasn't really changed much there. He has updated and repaired things as he rents it out, but you know, there's that barrier. I can't go beyond this point and stuff and visit my old pond and the frogs and the fishies that were there. The kennel where my grandfather raised and bred dogs well before my time, that is still standing. That is still there. That was turned into a shop that my uncle used to use. But it's like all those things I would love to share with her, and just raising her has reminded me about all this stuff, and those are all the things that have shaped my brain and my way of thinking, and the things that I long for. And it's almost like Bilbo and Frodo longing for the Shire, really, you know, and you're out here with the ring trying to get to the end goal. It feels very similar to that, you know. But I've got her, and it's amazing because the films and things that I can share with her, like Star Wars and Jim Henson and all that stuff. So I'm sitting here and I'm watching it with her, and I'm like going, holy cow, yeah, I forgot. This really resonated with me, and this really started creating, you know, my imagination and just setting it on fire. And I feel that. And it's like, you know, just trying to all come out at once, and I'm just like, where do I go with this from now? And that's always been the thing with me. It's like I always get very concerned I'm never gonna have another book in me to write, and that was it. That's all that I had left in me. Those were all of my ideas, and I just poured them all out, and it's like, and you rest for a little bit, and then it's like little bubbles coming up out of the swamp, and it's there, but it's bottlenecked because it's like, well, what about this? Well, what about this? Well, what about this? And it's like, I need to stop doing that and just let those thoughts happen. And the joy of my daughter has allowed some of that to release a little bit, instead of worrying about, well, how would that play out in a story structure and stuff, instead of writing down the notes and getting that all down on paper, and not worrying about the, I like to call it the business end of thing, the mechanics of how is this going to work, and is it going to play out really well, and will the audience like this, blah, blah, blah. It's like, stop worrying about that. Get the whole idea out on paper, and then it's like, that's the work of editing, and that's the work of massaging the story and stuff. Worry about that later. Let the idea come, instead of, you know, pruning it too short, and then you kill the plant and you've got nothing. I absolutely adore her, and I adore her energy. I'm exhausted. I have to say I'm exhausted, and probably a lot of the whole, oh my God, I probably do not have another book in me, is just from the sheer exhaustion. You know, at the end of the day, I've given it what I can, and normally that would go into the writing. Now it's going into her, and it's epic and it's amazing, and I think it's good to rest. It is definitely not writer's block. It's, you know, I have new priorities and things have shifted, and it's really very cool. And part of understanding that is realizing, as I'm sharing the things that inspired me with her, how they inspired me, what they were awakening in me, and feeling that all over again, which is why I'm feeling drawn to my grandmother's house and the woods and the trail and all these old things. It's like my brain is going, I remember this stuff, and this all came with it. Where is that? Because if you're doing this, I want to see that. And it's like, you can't explain to your brain that stuff is gone now with time, and things have changed. I dream a lot now about my grandmother too, so that's interesting. I hadn't realized that she was such an inspiration, really, to me. And it is absolutely pleasant to see her, because I do miss her terrible. You know, I wish I could see my great-grandmother too. I wish I would dream about her, but it's like, that was very traumatic, losing her, because she was my everything when I was little. And my daughter is, of course, named after her. And I think it would be too painful to dream about her and stuff, whereas my other grandmothers, like, I miss her, and she is such comfort, you know, and such inspiration and such love, that, you know, it's kind of like that healing time when you're dreaming, you know, that the brain is like, okay, gotta relax from the day and stuff, and here's something good to think about, and it just comes, which is, it's nice, it's great, you know, you wake up from that, you're like, oh, I saw her. Feel like she was back for a minute, which is great. And really, that's what my daughter has done for me. She's really kind of awakened this thing, and the whole family, and looking back and trying to remember where I came from, so I can see my path forward. And I think that's super important, especially in writing. I mean, when I get stuck on a book, the first thing I do is, okay, I am stuck. I'm going to start at the beginning and work my way back through and try to see if there's anything else that I need to write, anything that I need to fix, anything that I didn't catch. And I find that when I do that, I find another way forward, and I may come up against another wall, and I just repeat the process. For whatever reason, it seems to work for me. So looking back isn't always a bad thing, as long as you have good things to look back on. And I'm not saying that my childhood was, you know, completely charmed. There are things, you know, that are very bad in my history and stuff, and I've talked about them on Twitter. It is why I have depression and anxiety. There are things that I don't let come over to the vlog, because I try to focus just on the writing, and I think that's where this needs to stay. But just mentioning that having a child isn't going to end your career. Like, for women who are concerned, I'm a writer, am I going to have time to write? Yeah, you'll find the time to write. I really want a family, and they would be my priority, and I would put my writing on the back burner. That's okay. It is okay, whatever you choose. Just don't have a baby and then expect it to sit there and wait to grow up, you know, while you're off doing whatever. It's now you, them, and this. And that's okay. It shifts it in positive ways. Okay, there's going to be things that you're going to miss. There's going to be things that you're like, oh, I'm so glad that changed. And it's cool. Trust me. She has changed this for the better. She really makes me think about things a little bit more thoroughly, about their impacts, you know, the ripples outward and stuff, and how that's going to fly. Unfortunately, she doesn't really help me with my marketing skills, but maybe that will come in with negotiating with her when she's a little bit older. I mean, she is 3. She is pretty sassy. If she wants something, she will throw down and have a conniption fit if mommy says no. And, you know, I got to be the parent, not her best friend, so no comes out, and it can be tough, you know. She doesn't understand why. Why can't I eat all of the candy? You know, you didn't eat your dinner, which is actually good for you, and you can't run on sugar. Like I said to her, you're not a hummingbird, you can't live on sugar. So she doesn't get what that means. But, you know, it's been a positive change, and it has reminded me of all the good things that shaped me into who I am, and I'm doing my very best to bring that to her, and hopefully help shape her in a way that when she looks back, she'll have the same positive memories and happiness thinking about that. So there's that. Make sure to subscribe, and I'll be back here next month. Thanks. Bye.